Hello, everybody. Jimmy Smith here of the Wine with Jimmy channel. Delighted to have another video out there on the world of YouTube. Now, my channel is all about wine education. So if you are a budding enthusiast, look at the pun, but also a wine student, you will find these presentations, videos, very useful for your enjoyment, but also your studies. Now, I've got a video series here looking at Australia, wonderful part of the world. And we're here actually looking at series 4 on New South Wales. Now, series 4 is split into 3 parts. Hunter Valley Zone is this first part, this video. This is available as free content, but part 2 on the Central Ranges Zone and part 3 on the Southern New South Wales Zone are available to those of you that subscribe to my e-learning platform. Information for that can be found over at www.winewithjimmy.com. There's lots of extra goodies, lots of exclusive video content, maps, questions, all to help you with your knowledge and studies. If you have a comment or question, please do put it in the comments section below this video. Potentially you live in Australia, you make wine out here, or maybe you visit this region, you have favorites, favorite gastronomy, favorite matching, favorite wines. Get in touch. It will be lovely to hear from you. Make sure you click like and subscribe. So we are looking at the state of New South Wales. It lies on the east coast of Australia. You'll see it highlighted there on your map. So bordering the likes of Victoria, South Australia, and Queensland. Now, this is the most heavily populated state in Australia, and it's home to the country's most populous city, that is Sydney, that has around 5 to 5.5 million people. Now, wine production in the state has grown rapidly since the 1980s, and it's now the second largest in terms of production. The Pacific coast north of Sydney has a subtropical climate with moderate to high temperatures, high humidity and rainfall, which generally actually falls throughout the year, but it's often rather erratic. The state's most famous wine region, of course you will know it, the Hunter Valley, is heavily influenced by these conditions. So often when we start to discuss New South Wales climate, weather, it tends to be more focusing on Hunter, but there's lots more to New South Wales than, of course, just the Hunter. Now, most of the state's other notable wine regions are protected from tropical weather systems by the Great Dividing Range. That's a huge mountain range which stretches really from sort of almost north to south on the eastern side of New South Wales, stretching in total for about 3,500 kilometres as it then bends round and heads north of Melbourne. The climate inland is mainly continental and can be very hot and dry, especially in the Big Rivers zone, which includes Riverina, the largest beige area on that map you see in front of you. The Central Ranges zone and the Southern New South Wales zone, both of those, which include Mudgee, Orange, Cowra, Hilltops, Canberra, for example, these are all areas affected by altitude, so therefore they are moderated by the altitude effect. Let's go to our main focus, however. This is the Hunter Valley Zone outlined here on your map. It's around 125 miles north of Sydney, and it contains one region, and that's Australia's oldest, simply called Hunter. Plantings of Hunter are around 2,600 hectares, and it covers a slightly smaller area than the Hunter Valley zone. So these are kind of one and the same, to be honest. There are three official subregions, and we're going to talk about the Upper Hunter Valley. We'll talk also about Pekolbin, and then also Broke Foldwich as well. But often very sort of informally, the Hunter Valley zone is split into the upper and lower Hunter. So two informal mass areas within the zone. But it does include, to remember, three subregions, which are there in red on your map. So the upper Hunter, Broke Foldwich, and also Pekolbin. So let's talk a little bit about Pekolbin. It's been now highlighted on this map, situated kind of in the southeasterly section. It's a small subregion and it's regarded as the epicenter of the Hunter Valley wine zone. Now, the area covers a compact area between the towns of Cessnock, Branxton, and Pekolbin itself. There are 8 wineries within the parish of Pekolbin, but many wines are produced labelled using the Hunter Valley GI. Now, there have been vineyards here in Pekolbin for more than 150 years, and it was Pekolbin that the Hunter Valley's first Semillon vines were planted. Hunter Valley Semillon is a unique and widely respected style. We know it's early harvested, usually with very low alcohols, typically around 10%. It's going to be unoaked. It's going to be quite protected in its winemaking, fairly reductive, and then capable of considerable bottle aging. Probably more of an important milestone was laid down when the Pekolbin-based Tyrrell's winery produced the first Australian Chardonnay, a style that would then become quite internationally successfully, some would say famously, or even infamously. So let's talk more about the Hunter in general. The Hunter lies at about 32 to 33 degrees south in terms of latitude. The climate here is almost tropical. It is one of the hotter and most humid wine producing regions in Australia. Summer daytime temperatures will be commonly over 30 degrees Celsius. That's above 86 degrees Fahrenheit. But the nights can be cooler. The low latitude means that the sunshine here is intense with lots of UV light, although afternoon cloud cover can offer really some respite to the vines. The picture here to really show that beauty low sunlight is from Iron Gate Estate in Pekolbin. And I've given you that classic tabulated data of climate you'll find on the right-hand side. The rainfall here is only really a few percent dropped in the timescales given. It's typically annually about 813 millimetres, and the growing season rainfall is about 553 millimetres, so about 2/3 of the total rainfall. Some temperatures, you'll see there, mean Jan temperature, the MJT, 23.2 degrees Celsius, which is significant indeed when you take into consideration cooler night times as well. So, furthermore, as I mentioned, that rainfall is quite a lot in the growing season. That means high humidity making fungal diseases a major problem. It also means that irrigation is not required except in the driest years. Now, Hunter's position on the eastern side of the GDR, the Great Dividing Range, allows no protection from the late summer tropical storms, which sometimes sweep fiercely down Australia's Pacific coast. The warm climate, leading to an early start to ripening and chance of late summer storms, mean that the Hunter is often the first region to start and finish harvesting in Australia. Vineyards there in your picture of Sadler's Creek in Pecolbin again. Now, the lower Hunter is where we find Cessnock that we talked about earlier, but also Pecolbin again. This is closest to the coast, and you might find producers talking more informally about lower Hunter. And of course, along with Pecolbin, you'll find closer to the coast, benefiting from some sea breezes, which means it has a slightly cooler climate than the upper Hunter. The landscape is made up of undulating hills at relatively low altitudes. Soils range from sandy loams to clay loams, often over a clay loam base. This is the brilliant, beautiful picture here of the Audrey Wilkinson vineyard near Cessnock. And you'll see a lovely amount of humidity in the air again here. So what does one expect in Hunter? So white and black varieties are grown almost equally in the Hunter. The region is the most famous for its expression of Semillon, and this accounts for about a quarter of production. It's dry, light-bodied, high in acidity with that low trademark alcohol, 10, 11%. The wines are delicately citrusy and may be fairly neutral in their youth, but they can age for decades, developing more complex, pronounced aromas of honey, toast, and hay with bottle aging. Some of the highest quality wines are actually not released for 5 years until to give them a chance for some development. The grapes will be picked early for Semillon. The must is gently pressed without any skin contact, and that's to avoid phenolic extraction from the skins. The must is then fermented at moderate temperatures in stainless steel, and the finished wine is bottled shortly after. Very rare for oak and then extensive bottle aging. They're typically good to outstanding. Mount Pleasant, you'll see the picture on the right-hand side, and also Tyrrells have importance. Nearly a third of production is Chardonnay. You've also got some Verdello in play too. Here is the Chardonnay slide for you. It's widely produced. It ranges in styles from medium-bodied and higher acidity. And that's the cooler sites or earlier picking. And that's to the riper, full-bodied styles with lower acidity. You'll find both oaked and unoaked styles, and then some interesting Verdellos. Have you tried a Verdello from Hunter? Let me know your favourite, please. Key black grape variety in Hunter, it goes without saying. Predominantly Shiraz, typically medium-bodied, medium to high acidity with red and black fruits and spice. Less black pepper, more licorice in the wine style. You'll often find oak maturation. Large barrel is typical, so the oak character doesn't dominate. Pinot Noir here is a meagre 2% of the production. Another subzone we should think about here is Broke Forage. It's known for its slightly more continental climate and volcanic soils. Yes, it's named after 2 towns within its boundaries, and it kind of covers a water catchment, L shape, stretching 20 miles from north to south and 10 miles from east to west, just northwest of Pecolbin. It follows the course of the Wollombi Brook, which flows northwards towards Broke and Forage from the hills of the Great Dividing Range. The Forage Sill, which is a seam of red volcanic clay, is a weathered product of ancient volcanic eruptions. It brings valuable trace elements to the vineyards here, including basalt and iron, which can create a bit of a savoury touch to the wines. The soil is free draining, but the cell structure absorbs moisture quickly and releases it slowly, which is an important bonus for low latitude regions such as Broke Forditch. Verdello is quite important here. Here is the Crinklewood Verdello in this picture, clearly showing the subregion of Broke Forditch on the label. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this beginning adventure in New South Wales and the Hunter Valley zone. The same again, I would love to find out your thoughts and theories about wine producers, wines, experiences, gastronomy from these areas. If you do have any further comments or questions, please do get in touch by commenting on the video below. If you do find yourself in the UK, come and say hello for a glass, or bottle. And if you want access to the remaining videos in this series, you will need to join my e-learning platform. That's over at www.winewithjimmy.com. Until next time, I've been Jimmy Smith. Goodbye.